is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Derry Girls, Episode 2, titled Episode 2, in which our favorite messy bitch, Michelle, just doesn't know how to not ruin everything for everyone. And yet, I can't hate her the way that I want to. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. And this show is really funny. I have to say what a triumph it is that this show has created a character like Michelle who is so selfish, so self-centered, so completely unable to think things through, and has done so enough with her that I don't despise her, because that could easily happen. And I can't figure out why I don't hate her. You guys, the very first episode, she's the one who gets in someone's face and tells them that she's going to beat them up. And then she's the one who gives the finger to the girl who has the power to either report them or not. And then she's, just mouthing off all over the place that everything just gets fucked even more than it already is. 100% of the reason they are in trouble ever at any given time is because of Michelle. And yet, I can't seem to despise her. It's sort of she's like an anti-Hagrid. Hagrid, he gets the kids in trouble, or he does things that gets himself and other people in trouble inadvertently. He's a good-hearted, sweet, kind man who just doesn't think through to the end of a thought, who doesn't weigh the potential consequences of his actions. And his good-heartedness and his lack of desire to hurt anybody is what makes him, for so many people, completely excused in terms of the damage that he actually does. And as much as I understand that on a psychological level, I don't feel that in my heart, because he's so foolish that I feel like I don't want to trust him with anything, because he will make the same, whether he's guided by altruistic intentions is irrelevant in the face of the actual consequences of those actions. But Michelle is in this episode, what she does to ruin things for everybody is she steals a notice board. And it's such a nonsensical thing to do. And also, she was drunk when she did it, and begins to sober up as she's explaining why she did it, and realizes that maybe this wasn't a good idea. And I think that's the difference for me. Hagrid never really seems to understand what he's done. And that lack of comprehension is incredibly frustrating to me. Michelle, it's different, because Michelle just never learns. She knows what she did. The moment that she starts to realize what she did, you can see it on her face that it's happening and sinking in, and she's like, motherfuck. But then she just goes and does some other dumb shit right away, which again should make me hate her. Ashley's saying Hagrid is a grown adult getting kids in trouble. Michelle is 16 and she's such a real 16-year-old. I think that's definitely part of it, is that she's so young. And there's also a part of it that's I admire how hard she's willing to go from in her day-to-day life. This is a girl who is living with a capital Living. And I guess I sort of respect that in a way, even though there's no real reason to respect it, because she's doing things that have consequences for many people other than herself. And so I should respect it less how much she's willing to gamble with everybody else's good time. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I need to acknowledge that she's like the architect of all of the terrible things that happen this episode. So the episode begins with one of the worst renditions of Love is, what is it? Not Love is in the Air. That's the other one. It's the If You Really Love Me, Come On and Let It Show. And it's so bad. Like, it's an a cappella group. They're not really like on beat. And the lead girl who's singing in this is the prefect. And she does that thing where you're like, go on and let it show. Like that fucking awful up and down the scale. Like, Guys, when somebody can sing and does that well, I still kind of find it annoying. There are exceptions, Mariah Carey being like the primo number one exception. If you can't really sing and don't have that kind of vocal control, it's insufferable. And it's the kind of thing that like, on a scale of 1 to 100, if my respect for you is at 100 and you do something like that during a performance, it drops to like 20. Like I immediately just, nope, you're not even on like my respect list anymore. It's just, I can't handle it. It's so awful. Oh God, I hate it so much. Meanwhile, the headmistress is over here asking whether or not she has banned this one. And her secretary, endless love, the power of love, all you need is love. How deep is your love? It must have been love. I want to know what love is. I will always love you. No, sister, you didn't. And I want to know on some of those what exactly it is about those songs that she banned. Because for some things, I want to know what love is. And I want you to show me. I get. Like, I really do get being like, no, I don't think so, ladies. You're not singing this song. And then there are a couple of them that I'm like, what's up with that? I want to know what the lyrics are that you would have a problem with. Especially like the I want to know what love is. I don't know where I heard it the first time, like somebody singing a parody of it, but I can't ever hear it without hearing, I want to know what love is and I want you to blow me. And that never is not what I hear. And I always giggle every time I hear that song on anywhere because that's what comes into my head because I'm 12. But yeah, this fucking opening of all of these a cappella girls really fucking set the scene, guys. It's so awful. Oh, you all, like those of you who don't listen to other shows that I do, maybe you don't know this. I find the act of watching someone sing most of the time to be one of the most cringeworthy things ever. And it's a hugely hypocritical stance because I love to sing. And I used to perform. I used to be in choirs and choruses, and I would sing in musical theater. Like, I went to school for musical theater. This was something that I was thinking I might want to do professionally. And yet it's so uncomfortable that I want to gouge my own eyes out. So, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, whether you're a professional or not, it tends to not matter. I still feel this way. But here goes this scene where it's just the entire room is silent as well. And these girls are singing and there's this long fucking weird silence after they're done where like 2 people clap. And the sister says something like, that's beautiful, or what is it? Oh yeah, lovely stuff. And there's just the one person clapping, the crazy chick. What's her name? Olna? out in the audience. Oh my God. Luna. I'll just call her Luna. I just have to call her Luna. That's all there is to it. Orla. Oh, I was so close, Ashleigh. But yeah, she's Luna. So they're going to be having their, what is it she calls their reset tests? Reset. I don't know what reset means. If anybody in the audience can help me with this, I'm not familiar with this concept. I'm assuming that it's something like an SAT. But yeah, it's just a apparently very stressful thing that she makes it clear to everyone that they should not come crying to her if they are concerned about it, which I thought was pretty good. And then it turns out everybody's really waiting for an announcement on what the trip is going to be, because there's like a Globetrotters Club, and the trip this year is going to be to Paris. And all the girls are really excited, which leads to them realizing that they can't afford to go. Whew, excuse me. I don't know what's up. My nose has been tickling all morning, and I have been sneezing like these weird like head sneeze. I don't know how to describe this, but there's something obviously going on with my allergies, and I'm just like, ugh. If you're watching me on video, I apologize because I keep rubbing my nose because it feels like there's cat hairs tickling my nose. It's driving me batty. Now, the only part of this episode that I had a problem with is the fact that these girls are super excited for this trip, and yet they don't know that they're going to have to pay a bunch of money for the trip. I don't really know how they know about this, but they aren't aware that it's going to cost them. But there is an unawareness of their own situations here that, don't get me wrong, plays excellently for comedy, but doesn't feel like it makes a lot of sense, because I thought that they were excited for this globetrotting thing because they've done it before. And it wouldn't be called globetrotting if they hadn't gone somewhere out of the country last time too, I would imagine. So they had to have spent money if they ever did this in the past. Or maybe this is the first time they've ever gotten the opportunity to do it, perhaps. Maybe it's like meant for juniors, and that's like, this is the first year that they've ever gotten a chance to participate. I don't know. But yeah, the girls don't know that it's going to cost about £400 roughly for each of them to go. And they all were first unaware that they were going to have to pay. And then when the prefect brings up using money from her trust fund and tells them all, oh, well, it's just some place that your parents put money for you for the future, and you can just dip into that. And they're like, oh, nice. I didn't know about that. This is the kind of thing that I can't imagine not knowing that your family doesn't have the money to send you. And I'm not saying that this is impossible. I'm not trying to critique the writing here. I'm talking about just life experience being very different. I was aware in 4th grade that there were trips that I needed a permission slip and a check for $25, and that was going to be a squeeze. I knew that I was going to hear some grumbling from my parents about whether or not I was going to be able to go at all. And in the end, I would get to go to everything. But it was always made pretty clear that this was something that they were having to stretch to reach. And that was 4th grade on. There were a few field trips later on. There was one that was abroad that I didn't even ask my parents if I could go, because there was no question in my mind that we could not afford it. I didn't even tell them about it because there was no point. And being at their age and not knowing that their parents don't have the money to send them, I mean, they kind of have an idea, I think, because they're loath to even ask their parents in the first place, until Prefect mentions trust funds and seems to assure them that it's fine and you'll be able to go because of this. And they assume, oh, I guess all parents set that up. Nice. So I guess they have an inkling that it probably isn't going to happen, and then get their hopes raised again by this thing that they don't realize is for privileged, wealthy people. But yeah, this is just something that, you know, if you grew up a certain way, it would just be out of the question. You'd just be like, well, I guess I'm not doing that. That's too bad. And I think about that all the time. It was the kind of trip that, like, it wasn't even that I really wanted to go. They were going to Germany. And at the time, I just didn't really give a shit about Germany. And it was just the kind of thing that I didn't really even mind that much that I couldn't go. So, you know, I wasn't like cut up about it or anything. But I do think about how it just never even entered my mind to ask in the first place. And that's kind of sad. Ashleigh is saying, seems kind of like a fourth-year trip, and given their age, it seems about right. But it wouldn't be an opportunity the whole school gets. Gotcha. Yeah, I was the exact same with our trip, fifth-year ski trip to France, but my youngest sister is completely ignorant of money like the girls. I think with some kids, you're either hyper-aware or don't pay any attention at all. Yeah, Ashleigh, you know, that's an interesting, like, the type of personality you have. I have always been a bit of a control freak. I've always felt like my parents didn't really have things in hand. And I've always had a streak of anxiety. So I guess the kind of person who notices money issues as a kid is going to have all of those traits. Like, that probably just follows with who I am as a person. It's just really, it's the kind of thing that I'll come across, and this isn't even any sort of judgment. This is just me being like, wow, people are so different, that when I come across people who never worried about this, even when their families did not have the money, it's not like they never worried because we didn't have to worry. We had the money. They should have worried, or maybe shouldn't, whatever, but they didn't. That's the part that I'm always just like, wow, we are such very different people that this never even entered your head. How could you not have thought of this? And, you know, I was about to say maybe they should have worried, but why should they? They're children, and whether they know they have problems with money or not does not change their situation. And they do decide, well, maybe we'll go out and get jobs, and that's going to be what we do. And they're going to be proactive about it, which I fucking admire, to be honest, even though it does not work out for them. So, all right, moving on. There's this girl. Is it Megan Kavanaugh? Something Kavanaugh. And apparently she is a girl that is like super popular. Charlene Kavanaugh. Charlene Kavanaugh is popular and very pretty. She's very tall. She's just got this like whole look about her. Like if she was a little bit more done up, she could definitely be in like a teen movie in the United States. And I say more done up because they can't resist in movies in the United States, even if they're supposed to be teenagers. They can't help but make them look like they're grad students. So we have Aaron here talking about how if there was ever a more shallow, self-absorbed, generally unpleasant human being, and then Charlene comes up behind her and is like, oh, hey, Erin, how are you doing? And it becomes very clear that Erin not only does not have any principles with deciding who she likes and dislikes, but that probably she doesn't even dislike Charlene. She's just deeply jealous and intimidated. And the instant that Charlene shows her the slightest bit of interest in being friends, she is ready to drop her own friends in an instant. And she's doing this because Charlene tells her, none of my friends can be persuaded to come. So I'm going to need somebody to hang out with if you're down to do that. And I can't help but think that Charlene is slumming it basically with Erin. But if any of her friends decides that they can go, Erin's going to be dropped like a hot potato. And Erin herself is trying to drop her friends and saying like, well, maybe it's time for me to move on friendship wise. Girl, you are about to be in for a rude awakening. You are the safety net, and the moment that she has somebody cooler to hang out with, you are not going to be a factor at all anymore. But she's going to have to find that out for herself. Bridget is commenting, the only reason I was ever able to go on a school trip like that was because my mom was the teacher coordinator. So after a specific number of students signed up for the trip, she was allotted a certain number of free spaces to bring people on the trip. And one of those spots always went to one of us kids. There are 4 of us. Oh, that's interesting. Our school did not have that kind of policy. Because there was one teacher who had a kid, and I feel like that kid still had to pay. But maybe that was just the impression that was given to us because they didn't want us to know. But yeah, Aaron is trying to be like cool around Charlene. And, it's a really great little moment of Charlene sort of like platonically flirting, like somebody who has sort of social power does. The Charlene Kavanaugh wants to hang around with little old me. You know what I admire most about you, Aaron? Your unshakable principles. And storms away. It's pretty good. Listen. So yeah, this is when they get their, where do we sign up? Stall the fucking ball. 375 quid. Are you for real? Stall the fucking ball is amazing. I just love that. I don't know what it means. I guess that it's a football reference, but it's just such a weird, I think I might have to take that. Stall the fucking ball. And then I get to be really pretentious and explain, oh, I'm sorry, it's a football reference. Ah, you call it soccer here in the United States, don't you? And I'll just pretend that I'm not myself American. But yeah. So this is when she mentions the trust fund, and everybody goes home and starts to ask their parents about their trust funds. And they all realize individually that they do not have trust funds and that they are poor, or at least close to poor. And it's just, you know, one of those like, oh, sweetie, I'm sorry that you had to find out like this, like as a viewer. Are you telling me I don't have a trust fund? Well, do I have a trust fund, Mary? Listen, girls, there are no trust funds. There are no funds, period. Yeah. I also would like to mention that because the girls are often in costume, as if they are at school, they don't often have on their own, like, you know, very 90s clothing. This moment where Erin is talking to her mom, she is wearing such a great 90s outfit. Like, there are some 90s clothes that I really legit think were just a good idea. Most of it, no. Very much of it, no. For example, I have seen that people are trying to talk about bringing low-rider jeans back, which I don't know if any of you remember the absolute agony and horror of wearing low-rider jeans, but I absolutely will never, ever in my life go back to wearing those kinds of jeans ever again. Because if you have any sort of ass and you are wearing those and you sit down, your whole ass is hanging out. If you're wearing any kind of underwear, thong, briefs, whatever, everyone's going to know exactly what it is, and they're probably going to know what brand, and they're probably going to know what size, because your whole ass is hanging out. Never mind the fact that unless you have a perfectly flat stomach, they're not exactly flattering. And I had a perfectly flat stomach when they were in style, and I still hated them. So I hate those. But this moment, Erin is wearing a this amazing like knit vest, like a sweater vest, but it's short, and she's got a like long button-up white shirt, like a tunic length button-up shirt under it, and then she's got a little choker with like a sun pendant on the front hanging off of it. And it is just a good outfit, like, period, you know? I bet she's wearing like bootcut jeans or probably like flared jeans. They didn't like to call them bell bottoms. Bell bottoms were even more wide, I guess, but flared jeans were definitely a thing. So yeah, this is just a good outfit, and it's fun to see that occasionally because they're not wearing a lot of their own clothes in the scenes that we see. And this is a scene where her father's trying to put together a fucking dinner order. And everybody, like, this apparently is a tradition that they always get from this same restaurant. And it's a lot of fried stuff. Now, this is something, again, that's a little bit alien to me. When I was a kid, my mom was not, I won't say like she was really strict about food, period. It was like I was allowed to have seconds, and we didn't eat like all health food, you know. She would make macaroni and cheese and all this stuff. But us going out and having a bunch of fried food was unusual enough. Us ordering a bunch of fried food to bring home and eat never happened. Like, ever. This is just not a thing. So at first I was just like, oh, I guess they're placing. And then once I see like how much food they're ordering and how they're all sort of like, they know exactly what and they don't even have to look at a menu. Like, this is something that they're very familiar with. So they're figuring out exactly how many bags of chips they're going to need. And of course, my American brain is thinking potato chips, like bags of potato chips. It turns out that this is like a shop where it's fries. And of course, me thinking like, how many bags of fries? Like, we don't word it like that here. So it took me a little bit to catch up to what they were even talking about. And they all want more chips. Like, it's basically going to come down to a bag of chips per person. You know, there's going to be, he wants to buy 7. He wants to buy 2, and they wind up buying 7. This whole thing is just excruciating. And they get a call in the meantime from Aaron's grandfather's brother, so granduncle, I guess. And they hear this story. This guy is normally a huge bore and has apparently told everybody about these exciting new shoelaces that he bought. Which, listen, as somebody who recently bought a new pair of shoelaces that are very, very awesome for my sneakers, I can understand. However, he had something actually interesting happen to him. He got tied up and his van stolen and blown up. It's a big deal. And so they invite him to dinner because they're feeling kind of bad because they all didn't really want to talk to him. And now they hear that this like exciting thing happened that they actually want to discuss with him. And it turns out that he's just so bad at telling a story that would otherwise be very, very exciting. Have you all met this person though, guys? Like, you know, as somebody who does what I do for a living, there is nothing that frustrates me quite in that specific way as a person who doesn't know how to tell a story. It's so difficult to not sit there and every time they hesitate, fill in the words for them, you know, that kind of thing. Be like, so did you mean that? And they're like, I was going over to, and you're like, Applebee's, the post office, Walmart. Like, you're just trying to fucking get the story out of him. But yeah, so this leads to a thing later, which is why I'm mentioning it. But this uncle is just really something. And they invite him over and they decide to order extra food because he's going to be coming. So then we go over to the chip shop, which I don't know if do we see what the name is of the place? Is it just Finula's? That's the name of the woman who runs it. But I don't know if it's the name of the shop. Ashleigh's asking, so are chippers generally not a big thing in the U.S.? No. Chippers. I don't even know what that exact... Okay, Ashleigh says, I'm not mad about them. Our own chippers isn't great, and I'll only ever eat a chicken burger or hot dog. But at times when we've had the money to spare, it's been a weekly thing for a couple of weeks before we swear off them. When you say it the way, like a chicken burger or a hot dog, chippers, like, I'm just thinking about it as kind of a fast food place, right? Is that... But it's like... an independently owned, it's not like a, you know, franchise branded thing. Yeah, those, I feel like in the United States, fast food, really what brings people back is like loyalty to a particular flavor. And that particular flavor can only be found at this brand of restaurant. So people go for brands rather than individual, like, fried food places. The closest thing to like what this looks like to me in the US is like a Greasy Spoon diner, which aren't exactly health food places themselves, but you do tend to be able to get a lot more variety at a diner. Like you can get, salads and soups and sandwiches that aren't like horrible for you, as well as deep fried stuff and pancakes and pie and, all of that. Ashleigh says his speech patterns are just like my dad's and uncle's. I know he's supposed to be Northern, but anytime I watch that scene, I just think of Cork, Kerry, Galway. I don't know any about what that means, Ashleigh, but I believe you. Bridget says, the one in the village where my family lives was awesome the last time I was there. It's changed friends and locations a few times. The last time it was in the butcher's, so you could get sausage rolls and stuff too. Ashleigh says, pizza, hot dogs, burgers, chips, kebabs, and any kind of fast, greasy family-run place. Okay, gotcha. Any greasy family-run places. Okay, so kebabs I could get behind. I wouldn't mind that. But, we don't have, like, family... The places around here that are sort of, like, family-run were really modeling themselves after fast food franchises. Like, there's a place near us that's called... now I forget the name of it, but it's a burger place that is really a blatant ripoff of Whataburger. But it's called like Wannaburger, or no, the one near us, it's Watson Burger, because the guy's name is Watson, who owns it. And he used to come into the bank that I work at all the time. And it was just, very clear this guy was fucking copying Whataburger. Like Whataburger's logo is a big W with like a burger in the middle, and Watson Burger had a sign with a logo that was almost identical, except it said Watson in the middle instead of there being a burger. The burger was like underneath. Whatever. So it's like a walk-in, hole-in-the-wall place to get food, usually after a hefty night of drinking, in my experience. That seems awesome, though. That's the one thing, like, as far as fast food, it being the only thing open in the middle of the night, it can be lovely. So yeah, they come in and they have their long ass order that Aaron's trying to read off, and Fionnuala is just like, "Will you fucking hand me that piece of paper and shut the fuck up?" So everybody's placing their orders. What's the name of the little like goody two-shoes girl? Because she orders 1 fish supper and 1 Curry Butty special. I don't know what a Curry Butty special is, if anyone cares to enlighten me on that as well. It'll be ready when it's ready. Like, obviously, she is a pain in the ass. It's amazing. I really love this woman. Here comes Michelle. And Michelle she tells Fionnuala not to rush her. Like, and is pretty aggressive about it, but it becomes pretty clear a second later that she really actually likes Fionnuala and respects her in the way that a lot of them do. So she winds up placing her order after all. And don't be shy with the salt now. What about the wee limey? And he says, nothing for me, I'm fine. And they are all completely baffled. All 4 girls turn and stare at him. The people who are in the booths off to the side all look up and look at him like they have never seen such a spectacle in their lives as somebody turning down food at one of these places. You don't want anything. It's lovely. I just don't fancy it. That's all. I don't understand. Are you not feeling well, James? And finally he just screams, I don't like it. It's too greasy. It's much, much too greasy. Even the smell of it makes me physically sick. And Michelle, I'm sorry that you had to hear that, Fionnuala. You're a fucking embarrassment. And Fionnuala says, get him out of here. And they kick him out. And it's just hysterical. I love it so much. Like, I like Fionnuala a lot. I like her. She's kind of, I don't know. There's something about her that that resonates with me. Ashleigh says, Jenny, chips in a roll covered in... What's Jenny? Oh, Jenny's the girl that's... I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about food still. Jenny's the goody two-shoes girl that's always... Okay, gotcha. And chips in a roll covered in curry sauce. What? Chips in a roll? Are you talking about a bread roll? Like it's stuffed with French fries? Covered in curry sauce? What kind of fucking maniac came up with that god-awful idea? What? What? Why do you ever want to stuff bread with potatoes? No, the roll isn't in curry. Wait. Then I'm confused. I don't understand this, Ashleigh. Help! The chips are coated in curry and put in the roll. That makes even less sense. So it's like a potato sandwich? It's like a curry potato sandwich? What in the fuck is wrong with you people? No, it is not really good, Ashleigh. You take that back. What the hell? I'm horrified. Ah, you broke my brain. A potato sandwich. Why? Why? It's really good. I don't believe you. Curry Butty special. All right. I'm fucking Googling this right now so that I can see a picture of it. Chip Butty is a sandwich made with chips on buttered white bread. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. I can't believe that you guys are doing this out here. What in the fuck? These pictures are disgusting. You all should be ashamed of yourself. What in God's name possessed somebody to do this, and now you're all doing it? I Googled Curry Butty special, and Google knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, and there's a million pictures of it, so it's obviously super popular. Soggy chips in a nice crunchy roll. That's the opposite of the textures that you want for those things. You want bread to be crisp and nice, and you want the potatoes to be crisp. I don't understand this. Oh, I'm so upset. I agree with the Lil Wee Englishman. I agree. It sounds horrible. I'm so mad about it. And you know, it really takes a lot to get me mad about curried potatoes, because curried potatoes are the shit, my friends. The shit. I love them. But you don't put them on a goddamn white bread roll. That's the part that I'm looking at on all these. And you've got what look like either just straight up hamburger buns or regular old white bread for like a sandwich, which with the amount of sauce in a lot of these pictures, that has to soak through that bread almost immediately, which is like the texture. It's almost as bad as like when your mom would make you hamburgers at home instead of like taking you to McDonald's, and she would put that fucking patty on a piece of white bread with another piece so that the ketchup and mustard like squeezed through the instant you picked it up. You guys, I'm so mad. Okay. Ashleigh is saying, no, not white bread. If you're buying it in a chipper, it's in a roll. White bread wouldn't go well with it. Well, it's in these pictures, there are many of them that are on white bread. So I don't know what to tell you on regular white bread. Most of them are on rolls, but there are quite a few that are on regular white bread. So yeah, I don't know. But even if it's on a roll, it's still white bread. It's just shaped differently. But yeah, Irish people are obsessed with 1, bread, 2, butter, 3, potatoes, and 4, curry, says Bridget. It's the epitome of an Irish diet. Yeah, I just spent like a straight 5 minutes of this commission talking about this, and I'm not even like going to apologize because I can't believe I never heard of this. Apparently I need to go to Ireland just to be educated on some of this stuff. And you know, you know what makes me the most angry though? Is that I bet I'd try it and I'd like it. I bet I would. I bet I fucking would. And I would just be so mad about it. It's just, there's no nutritional value there of any kind. There's not even a bit of protein. Like, Anyway. So, here we go on to the next portion of this, which is the family getting told the story. This uncle whose hair is really quite amazing. I have to imagine that it's a piece, but it's so like it's combed over in this almost Justin Bieber-esque style that I found very distracting. And this scene goes on for several minutes. It's really excruciating. So Erin gets summoned out by her friends after dinner. And it turns out that Michelle has gotten drunk and stolen the notice board right out of the chip shop. And she is very proud of herself until everybody starts asking her why the fuck this seemed like a good idea. Because Fionnuala is fucking terrifying, first of all. 2, all of these notices are pinned up with thumbtacks and so could easily be taken down. And just in general, there is no particular reason why doing this was easier than doing any other option. Like, you know, the whole thing is just so weird. And what possessed you? And she says, yeah, the more I talk about it and sober up, the less sure I am, really. And this is kind of what I enjoy. Moments like this are what keep me from feeling about Michelle the way that I feel about Hagrid. It's that she has these sudden like, oh shit. But every time she has one, she goes on and does that exact same shit later. She doesn't learn from it. So I still should, but you know, it's like she hasn't connected the dots that all these incidents are her being simultaneously like lazy, lacking in basic logic, and also like very impulsive. So she hasn't seemed to realize that a lot of her problems come from the same sorts of behaviors over and over again. Ashleigh is over here. I mean, you can put some chicken in from the curry. Don't think you usually would, but you can. Bridget says, you can come with me. Sounds like we need another GoFundMe. Oh, I would fucking love that so much. I would love to take Owen out of the country. He's never been out, and he needs that at least once in his life, you know? But anyway, yeah, so this moment of her just suddenly realizing that I fucked up, is, yeah. And she's mad too, you know, this is coming from a bit of a place where she's like, this girl that told us that her parents have a trust fund for her is getting things literally handed to her. And that's not how it's going to be for us. So we need to make a way for ourselves. And sometimes maybe that's going to involve us doing stupid shit because we're just trying to like get the things for ourselves that other people just have handed to them. And in principle, I fucking deeply understand that. And there's even a part of me that agrees that like, you know, people who are not privileged, I give a totally different standard. Like, am I somebody who's like, well, stealing is fine? Not usually. But if you're stealing from somebody who has way too much to use in their lifetime, for example, and you steal like in an amount that they will never like in a significant way notice is gone, I can't help but feel like I don't really care. I'm not really interested in punishing this person, that kind of thing, you know? Now, this is a different situation because Fionnuala is a small business owner and obviously has her own, like, tiny apartment above this place. So she's not one of the bourgeois that we're, you know, going to be fighting injustice by stealing from. But I just want to make it clear that in general, the idea of stealing from the rich for the sake of the poor is not something that I ever have a fucking problem with ever in my life. So anyway, this speech that she gives and she goes from each of them and it's just like, I know that you want to see the Arc de Triomphe. I know how much you want to practice the shit out of the past participle. I know that you really, really buzz off those Renault ads. And you, Aaron, you're just riding Charlene Kavanaugh. I'm not riding her. I just think it might be time I moved on, friendship-wise. You are aware that you're talking to your current friends. And then Michelle gets up there. We can't give up on Paris. We can't. We will make this happen. I will buck a French lad. I will buck a French lad, so help me God. So I assume buck means fuck, and they just didn't have her say fuck for whatever reason. Maybe it means something slightly more, what's the word? Tame than fuck. But either way, it is pretty hilarious. And I like that this results in them all gathering together later on in Erin's room to talk about who's going to take what jobs. Tutoring, out of everyone, I thought you might be best suited to that, Claire, because, and she says, I'm the brightest. And she says, well, in that conventional sort of way, I suppose. There's also babysitting. The child will be in bed, so you should just about be able to manage that, Michelle. And then there is landscaping and mowing, which takes some muscle. So that will be, and this young man here is smiling at her, thinking that he's about to be handed this job. And she says, you should take that one, Orla. And Orla nods, and he says, no, I should do that one. It's a man's job, Erin. I'm a man. I'm more of a man than Orla. To which Orla says, I do not accept that. And I love that line. I do not accept that. Ugh, Orla, what are you doing here? I love her. What a weird character. I love characters like this that just like serve no purpose other than to come up out of the background and just do some weird fucking shit and then fade back again. She's like the Creed of this group, you know, like just somebody will talk about how she smells weird and she'll be like, yes, well, I'm sprouting seeds in my jacket pockets. They smell like death, but they're very nutritious. So yeah, this scene is just great. And they all leave and they're really feeling themselves as they step out the door. I don't know what song this is that's playing as they like strut out, but they're obviously ready to take on the world and it's great. And they are strutting down the street as they head to their new livelihoods, so they think. And Fionnuala pulls up beside them and yells, you thieving wee fuckers. And it all comes crashing down because as it turns out, fucking Jenny told her mother that Michelle stole the fucking board. Because of course she did. She is completely incapable of having her friends' backs in any meaningful way. She is such a coward that it is almost impressive. Ashleigh says, oh no, sorry, that's Claire. Ashleigh? Who's Jenny then? Which one's Jenny? God damn it, Ashleigh. I'm sorry, I can't stay mad at you, Ashleigh. She's Claire. Claire feels like a more appropriate name for her. Jenny is the prefect from last episode. Right. That's right. Okay. She's Jenny. Yeah, she fucking feels like a Jenny. These names all seem quite appropriate. Michelle really feels like a Michelle. What's her cousin's name again? Eric? Tom? James. James. Yeah, all right. That also feels pretty good. And Fionnuala is trying to, like, she's like, I have to make an example out of you. Like, I know that you guys are good people. Your family's basically decent, but I can't just let you get away with stealing my shit because everybody is going to hear about that and I can't have that. So they're like, well, not a ban. And then she's like, well, maybe a suspension. And then they're like, well, isn't there something else we could do? Like anything? So it turns out that the deal they make is to send their kids who stole from her to clean her place. And they're going to, of course, do this for free, which means that they will not have time to get jobs, which means they will not be able to go to France. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, if they did get those jobs, it was like, that's £400. That's enough money today. Never mind in the 90s. They need to save for a while to be able to do that. And I can't imagine they'd be able to do it in time to sign up for this trip. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just have a feeling. So James is over here trying to be like, would doing without deep fried food really be that terrible? And they all turn and stare at him and are just like, are you kidding? Yes, it would be. And I think it's Michelle who tries to be like, all right, you know what? I bet Fionnuala isn't even going to like check up. I bet it's an empty threat and she wouldn't really ban anyone. And Orla has to be like, no, she really would. She banned those twins. Do you remember? Like, you know, they lost all of that weight. And yeah, they're like, oh, fuck. Okay, fine. So the threat of losing access to this place is enough to frighten them. And Michelle, again, gets up on the table. We need to leave this place fucking spotless. But the problem is that none of them actually know how to clean. So they're spraying things around. They're pouring things on the floor thinking that it's going to clean. James is like squirting something onto a sponge and spraying it on the floor. There's all this stuff, and I'm watching them do it. And like, you know, Claire drags the trash out, and she drops a bunch of trash behind her on the way out. Whatever James used on the window completely covers it up. They're trying to they get these like buckets or tubs of stuff that they seem to think is cleaning stuff. And as somebody who worked in food, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's leftover oil or something like that. That's not a cleaning material, but nothing's labeled. So they just have to kind of guess, and they leave the place pretty much trashed. Meanwhile, Michelle, who she herself is trying to do her best for about 5 minutes, she really bails quite early and goes upstairs and begins to drink out of Fionnuala's private stash of liquor because she has not learned a fucking thing, and dances around, and she pours a bunch of shots and lights them on fire in order to show off, picks up the tray and drops it and lights the curtains on fire. And this is like when it turns into a fucking like anxiety dream for me. Oh my God. Ashleigh says, so I Googled, and apparently 400 pounds in the 90s is worth 900 pounds today, which is $1,185 or 1,048 euro. They would never make that much money. Yeah, I was like, this seems very ambitious. I think you guys are vastly overestimating what you're going to get paid. But, yeah, it's true. Like, and watching them clean this place and not have any idea what they're doing, not have the slightest concept of how to clean, really is, it undermines the idea that they'd ever get paid for anything ever. They don't know anything about what they're doing. They are just making it up, and anyone who hired them would certainly realize their mistake and fire them after about an hour. And yeah, the place looks trashed. It's super, super gross in there. Like compared to when they first got there, it's so much worse. And then they hear the music and they go upstairs, and here is fucking Michelle dancing around. She's the one who got them into this fucking mess and does not give any shits at all that they are all downstairs cleaning up because she is the one who stole, even though they did not do anything. They had nothing to do with it. So when she lights the thing on fire, James runs in. He has a fucking a fire extinguisher and manages to put it out because he's a practical human being with a brain in his head. But the damage is certainly done. There's smoke everywhere. The curtains are blackened. The wall behind them is blackened. And they're really, really screwed. And they have to go and tell their parents, who come over and decide that they're going to pretend that these kids got robbed by somebody who had come to try and find the keys to the van in order to steal the van. Basically, the idea comes from their uncle who has been robbed. So this fucking... These two, their mom and aunt, Aaron's mother and her aunt, decide to stage this scene and tie them all up. But then, as they're like preparing the scene, her Fionnuala comes back, and they have to try and rush out the back door in order to make the scene look as convincing as possible. Fionnuala's face when she walks in is really something. Like, I just love so much this complete, like, horror at the state of her wall, the bafflement at looking around at all of them tied up in different parts of the room. And then she turns and you can hear the voices of the two women yelling about how the door is locked and they can't get out to, make the scene at all convincing. And they had tried to tell the mother, well, she was just dancing around and she had a scented candle in her hands and she tripped. And she had said something like, if you think that I fucking believe that, that's just insulting. But of course, Fanula comes home and is like, what in the fuck is going on here? And the mother says, well, what happened was Michelle was carrying this scented candle. And then the song Never Gonna Get It begins to play. And we cut to all of them eating pizza for dinner and being very disappointed and saying that this is just not as nice. Which, that's something in particular that's such a small thing, but that I find really funny and weird is in America, we don't call food nice. Nice is something that is reserved for either the appearance of something or the behavior of something. But flavors, we almost never, ever describe as nice. Oh, that tastes really nice. That means nothing here. Like, tastes nice. Come on. Does it taste good? Does it taste delicious? But tastes nice. That's nothing. So the fact that that's such a thing, like, I was working with a girl for a long time when I lived in Connecticut. For like 3 years, I worked with this girl from from Wales when I was in Old Saybrook. And she would describe things, she would taste something and be like, that's not nice. And I found it hysterical because it was like the food had been rude to her in my mind. But yeah, that's just such a weird little, like, there are a few little speech things that are like that for me where I'm just like, what a weird way to say that. And then I'm like, I don't know why it's weird. It's not really any weirder than saying, oh, that tastes good. Good is more of a behavioral thing, one would think. But yeah, so that constantly be like, oh, well, pizza's just not as nice. Just such a weird, and of course for me, if I'm going to have a choice between like fried food or pizza, I'm picking pizza every fucking time. Like, I love fried food, and it might be a toss up if it was something like Popeye's fried chicken, but most fried food does not hold any candle to pizza in my mind. However, I also have grown up in areas of the world that have the best pizza on the planet, and so I'm not sure exactly what the pizza in Ireland really is like, and it might not stand up. So, yeah. But anyway, so that was a really, really fun episode. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much to Ashleigh. Thank you very much to Ashleigh for commissioning this. Thank you very much to Ashleigh for being in the chat and educating me. But no thank you to Ashleigh for telling me what a Curry Butty special is, because I'm still angry about it. And I will never get over it. I'm just thinking about it now is making me mad all over again. I can't believe it exists. Whose idea was this? And the bread is even buttered, which somehow just adds insult to injury for me. I can't. Oh, okay. I'm going to let it go. I bet you I bring this up to Owen and he tells me that it sounds amazing and that I should try making it. And I'm just going to want to punch his face. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening. And I will see you soon with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.